Good morning, everybody. Could I ask you to take your seats, to leave the good coffee? Good morning, everybody, again. I have the pleasure to welcome you to the second day of our Just Transition Platform conference. My name is Catherine Wendt. I'm the head of unit for smart and sustainable growth in DG Regional and Urban Policy. And within this team, we have the responsibility for the Just Transition Fund and the Just Transition Platform. I'm very happy this morning to be moderating the session on youth involvement in just transition processes across the globe. Before I start, because it's the first session of the day, I'm going to give a few housekeeping rules. So first of all, welcome, of course, to those who are following us online. We're very happy that we're able to do this in a hybrid format. For those of you in the room, always important to have the Wi-Fi, so the network is there, and your password. We have interpretation, as those of you who were here yesterday with us will know, so we have an app. It's the Interaxio app, interpreting into English, Czech, Polish, Greek, French, and Spanish. So please have your telephones ready with the app in case of questions. Again, the code in the room, JTP April 24, and online is also there. We will have chance for questions and answers, so please already start thinking about the engagement that you'd like to have in this session on youth engagement. For those of you online, you can ask your questions via Swapcard, and Veronica here will help me by reading out those questions. For those of you in the room, just please raise your hand. So before yesterday, in fact, I prepared a few words about the importance of youth engagement and why we were having this session. And then as I listened carefully to each of the sessions, in each of the sessions, there was a reference to youth and why the engagement of youth was important. So I thought, okay, I don't need to say much about why we need to have this session. I think we're all convinced. The partnership principle generally is, of course, essential in bringing us towards a just and inclusive approach to decarbonization. It can accelerate it, and moving us towards a carbon-neutral economy. And the success of this depends on an engagement of all stakeholders. But the role of youth, because of the next generation, is really essential in this process. So for the transition to be just, the young people need to be engaged in every stage, from the agenda, strategy setting, the implementation, and of course, to the monitoring of the projects. But there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. We have many different countries across the globe, with different stages of transition, and of course each region has its own different context, industrial makeup, legal framework, and culture. So there is no one system that we can say, this is the process that you need to use and this will solve your problems. We need to learn and see where there are similarities, where there are differences, again, where things work and where they don't work, and see what will work for each of our regions. And that's why we have our dialogue today, to see where the similarities are and when we can take advantage of the similar challenges and opportunities which are being faced. So we have a panel of youth representatives. There are two ways that this session is different from the other sessions that we've had so far and the rest of today. The first one is that all of our speakers are from outside of the European Union. So we're very happy to bring in expertise from different, as I say, not just different parts of Europe, but different parts of the globe. And also we have many online speakers for this reason, because we have speakers coming from outside of the European Union. I have to add a personal note. I'm very happy to be chairing this session, and when we developed the program for the conference, I immediately said, can I please be involved? Because I used to work, before I took this job, I used to work on the accession countries, so preparing countries for enlargement to the European Union. And I saw then that it's not just about legislation and institution, it's about the processes which are set up in the countries to enable them to move towards the European Union and to accept and to integrate with the Union. And it's also not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. So the European Union can learn and needs to learn very much from the countries that we are soon to embrace. So again, I'm very happy that I'm able to be here to listen and to engage with speakers from beyond the European Union. The structure of our session. Firstly, I will interview a couple of youth representatives to hear about their experiences in the transition process. So this will be Maya and Zipporah. So Maya coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Zipporah from Ghana. And then we will have three panelists telling us about the youth engagement projects that they have been involved in. And after that, we will have a Q&A, as I said, so please feel free, and I encourage you to ask your questions, but also to share your own experiences and the successes that you have had and the challenges that you have faced. I'm going to invite Maria already to join me on the stage so that I'm not completely alone. Maria will be one of our speakers in the second part of our session. So, first of all, Maya and Zipporah, first of all, welcome. Great to see you both with us online. Maya, I'm going to start with you. So Maya Ibricic, a youth eco-activist at the UNICEF-supported program Improving Air Quality in the Western Balkans. And as I said, you're coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So Maya, I wanted just to start and ask you the general feeling that there is in Bosnia, but also in the Western Balkans, and also your feeling about the transition process.
Good morning, everyone. Greetings. I'm really sad not being able to join you live, and I hope you all can hear me. I'm Maya Ibricic. As mentioned, I am from Tuzla, a really coal-dependent town in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So when it comes to just transition, I can definitely say that I have been growing up trying to get rid of the coal, let's say, just like that, and to let's say, empower the just transition process. I am student of international relations and diplomacy, and I am member of Center for Ecology and Energy when it comes to informal education, and I am advocating for a change. And if I'm right, the question was about the general feeling when it comes to just transition in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Well, unfortunately, taking into consideration the fact that the Bosnia and Herzegovina is a coal-dependent economy, that the majority of our, let's say, electricity and power in general comes from fossil fuels, it's not really a good terrain to talk about just transition. People are scared. People are questioning themselves all the time. And that's why we need to provide them with good answers. The energy transition, unfortunately, is still perceived by a part of the public, of course, as well as by a larger portion of decision makers, unfortunately, as a threat to the further economic development of Bosnia and Herzegovina. As I mentioned, because of the reasons of the coal-dependent economy, lignite coal power plants, and as a result, we have a resistance. We have a resistance to a change. We have a resistance to the transition, let's say, in general, and that is what is significantly, basically, slowing it down. But this is a positive but. Usually, when we say but, it's negative. But this but is more than positive because there are young people. I know that some of the things might become cliche when talking about them, but really, I'm so sure that the change is in young people, and they are crucial. As previously mentioned in the introduction, they are crucial to be a part of the agenda, of the strategy setting, and in monitoring the processes, like you mentioned in the beginning. I think that is really a good point and really important, because young people have activist spirit, they have desire, they have passion, and they have willingness for a better, let's say, also rightful and more sustainable future. And that is coming with just transition, especially in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And there are still young people, and there is many of them, trust me, there is many of them who want to stay in Bosnia and Herzegovina and contribute. That's why it is important to empower the just transition processes and make youth stay in Bosnia and Herzegovina and make a change.
Maya, thank you so much. I mean, you talked about the passion of the youth, and I think we can hear the passion really coming from you very clearly. So can you tell us about your own involvement in the process?
Well, my path was really a long one when it comes to ecology in general, when it comes to basically talking about just transition and everything. I have really been actively participating in regional and national environmental conferences such as this one, and I was always kind of advocating for policy changes that promote basically youth engagement at its best, that combat for change and ensure, let's say, a fair and inclusive transition. And as I was a child, I was volunteering in the same organization that I'm now part of, that is Center for Ecology and Energy in Tuzla. And I kind of grew up talking about these topics, which makes me really that passionate, because it has been, let's say, my entire life. Yeah, it became maybe a bit childish when I was starting, but now it became really a part of my life, and a really important part of my life. That's why I always, let's say, try to spread the importance of transition for everyone individually, when it comes to my family, and then our society as a whole, Bosnian Herzegovinian society, and also regional society, because let's say Western Balkans have the same destiny, I would say, when it comes to just transition. If not the same destiny, then we can say that Western Balkan countries are kind of sharing lots of similarities when it comes to just transition. And that's why I think that it's important to ensure, like you said in the beginning, partnership principle. Yeah, it's really hard to be a passionate, let's say, environmental activist and just transition activist, because we are all facing challenges on a daily basis. People think that everything is some sort of conspiracy theory, but there is always a good approach to just be honest with people and show that they really have many advantages from this. And that's why I tend to remain resilient, driven by the belief that we can all contribute individually, and let's say to contribute generally to a greener and socially just planet. And my experience has shown me that the way to the just transition is definitely not simple. It is a demanding journey, throughout which is really important to recognize the crucial challenges, to let's say target the problems and challenges that we have, and basically to listen, to believe young people, to show that their words matter, that they can be part of decision-making processes. And it is also a crucial element to, let's say, reach out to the unheard. And I would say in the end that the most important thing that my experience has shown me is to never give up, no matter how hard it is, and no matter if no one listens you.
Maya, thank you. I mean, you show so clearly your own engagement to the issue of just transition, and in spite of the difficulties which you say you're fighting every day to get the attention and to try to convince people. How is the feeling in your country, in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Is it a difficult narrative? Are the authorities with you, or are you also having to engage and try and convince the authorities?
We definitely have to convince the authorities. I would say that is the most difficult part, because there is no enough political will among key decision makers. And there are insufficient, I would say, projects when it comes to national level, the level of Bosnia and Herzegovina, unfortunately. We are doing our best. When I say we, I think the youth that I'm constantly, let's say, collaborating with. We are trying to, let's say, convince people with the facts. Because whenever you try to make some sort of change, to bring new things in the political agenda of our country, people are always asking, okay, we can bring the change, but what is there for us? What are our benefits? That's why we always have to emphasize the importance and the advantages that the just transition has, that sustainable development has for our country. I would say, unfortunately, when it comes to the decision-making process in Bosnia and Herzegovina, unfortunately, everything is happening in the pre-election campaigns. that's when everyone is talking about ecology. Everyone tries to mention the just transition, but when it comes to implementing, then there are many problems because they're scared that people will not give them votes if they talk about just transition and everything. That's why it's really hard to talk with decision makers on this topic. And that's why I previously mentioned it is important not to give up in this segment. And the good thing is when it comes to my local community, the local communities and municipalities are really collaborative. They want to hear us, they want to give us, let's say, some kind of opportunities to at least be visible to the majority of people that want to hear anything about, let's say, just transition.
I want to finish with a positive vision. So, Maya, if you look forward, what's your vision for the process of just transition in your country? How would you like to see it going forward?
Well, I think there is definitely, when talking like this, being realistic is really hard because sometimes it looks like the future is not so bright in Bosnia and Herzegovina. But I think being negative basically won't give us nothing. That's why I think it is really important to remain positive. When it comes to, let's say, some general changes, a realistic goal would be to replace the existing thermal power plants in the future. The just transition process is not a process that happens in a week or two. It is a long-term process that has and must include everyone in the society. And that's why when doing this slowly, doing this the right way, Bosnia and Herzegovina will definitely have enough energy for its own needs when it comes to implementing just transition policies. And that's why the just transition in Bosnia and Herzegovina definitely requires European Union assistance. And I'm really happy that we finally have the green light and are talking about joining the European Union, because that is what will definitely help us. That is the positive thing for the future, being a part of the European Union, being a part, let's say, of one great family of countries, because I think that will definitely help us when it comes to young people as well. It will increase our mobility going into other countries for internships. It will include young people more. And I will just say that Just Transition offers Western Balkans regional youth the opportunity basically to contribute to a more sustainable, equitable, and resilient future, definitely. And of course, it encourages, like I said, their active involvement in shaping development trajectory. And let's say, given the opportunities that are presented to us when we are involved, such as I am involved in the processes of just transition and the processes of sustainable development, it is definitely making young people more active and persistent on their path. And that's why I'm looking for joining the European Union with all of others in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And that is definitely a positive thing, because I think it will bring lots of opportunities for Bosnia and Herzegovina. But European Union has really helped us. Now it's up to us, it's up to Bosnia and Herzegovina, it's up to youth, it's up to everyone to use the opportunities that we have been given in the best possible way.
Well, I think that's an amazing way to finish. So also recognizing the potential, the opportunities from Bosnia's path towards the European Union, but also the responsibility and engagement needed in Bosnia-Herzegovina itself, and also the contribution which you can make within the region and, of course, within the European Union. And we're also very happy that you're here with us, already part of the community for Just Transition, and that will just become closer as we go forward. Maya, don't leave us. Please stay online, because the colleagues here in the room and online will like to ask you questions later, I'm sure. But we will now move to Zipporah from Ghana. So Zipporah, she will arrive on the screen momentarily, is the program coordinator for Youth in Engineering at the Institution of Engineering. And she's a working group member of the Youngo Just Transition and Green Jobs. Zipporah, it's great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to structure a little bit the same way as Maya. So first of all, to start with you and your feeling generally, but also the specific feeling about the transition amongst young people in Ghana.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and greetings from Ghana, everyone. So Ghana today can boast of not having a coal plant because of the voices of young people that saw beyond its economic impact, but the environmental and social impact on local communities. And I come from a small community in the eastern part of Ghana, where most young people and women do not only depend on charcoal and firewood for cooking, but also as a source of livelihood. And young people will walk miles and sometimes in unsafe conditions to fetch these fuels, not because they wanted to, but because there were no alternatives, even though the option degraded the environment. So for me, the topic of just transition is, I'll say it's an area that young people, yes, we do want the transition, but it's not because there are no alternatives. Young people feel like you're not giving us alternatives, but you want us to transition. So that is how the conversation is for us in Africa. So I would say that among young people also in Africa, it's also a topic of job creation and decent jobs, just as Maha said, that there are also opportunities in it that we also have to talk, or in our advocacy, we have to also let young people know. And I'll say for climate activists and CSOs and NGOs, it's also a desire for inclusion. It's a future of hope, as it does not only prioritize environmental sustainability, but social justice and empowerment. Just as we are talking about including young people in the just transition process, that is what as young people we want to see. But for those in the oil and energy industries or sectors, it's also a feeling of uncertainty and anxiety, because they want to know what's next if we transition from maybe oil or we transition from gas, since we are looking for cleaner energy. So that is what for some young people it is. It's really about a lot of anxiety and uncertainty that what is the way forward if we want to transition. So that's what I'd like to end here with.
Zipporah, thank you. You talked about the anxiety, and Maya also talked about people being scared, and I think that's a very important issue for us all to be aware of and to think in terms of engagement, how we can address this, recognize it, and address it. So, Zipporah, can you tell us a bit about your own involvement in the transition process, what you've been doing yourself?
Okay, so let me start with just a bit about how I got into the space. As I was, my mom was actually a charcoal seller, and she also used to sell, she was a fishmonger as well. And as I used to watch her, I saw how she struggled with her health, and I could just think to myself, what are some of the alternatives that we could use instead of these dirty fuels? And as someone with an agric background, I decided to design and fund a solar dryer with some of my friends, even though it was a class project. And when my mom tested it, she actually came back with how successful it was, because it provided a clean cooking environment and there was also zero carbon emissions. And it's also tripled her sales, even though I thought that was my class project, but she came back with how successful it was. And I'll say that I could not continue that project more to be a social entrepreneur because of not enough funding for that particular project. But I didn't let that stop me. I decided to take the initiative to co-found my own organization, that is Asaseya and Friends Network. Asaseya literally translates as Friends of Mother Earth Network. So that's how I started. And I committed myself to educating local communities and schools, and not just ending there, but also empowering young people by providing them with opportunities and good jobs to foster sustainable incomes. And I also since I have an engineering background, I felt that we cannot talk about just transition without introducing technology. So I worked with Oak Foundation, and we organized the first youth entrepreneurship project where we trained and supported more than 2,000 young people with the support of GIZ and agribusiness and other vocational skills to attain a sustainable income. Because you just can't go to these local communities and say that you want them to change from the ways they know without providing them an alternative. So if you're telling them that if my source of livelihood is these dirty fuels, you want me to transition, but you're not giving them any alternative. So I made it a conscious effort, leveraging on my organization to also train these young people so that they also have a sustainable income. We also made it our efforts also train young girls in installing solar panels in their household, because we have to provide them with these green skills. Young people are scared, but what can we do so that we could also give them some skills where they could also feel safe in this transition? Aside that, I also made it a conscious effort to also advocate for renewable alternatives and allocation of finances for local communities as I just ended COP28, especially as a member of Yongo Just Transition. And in partnership with Clean Cooking Technologies, we have also introduced clean cook stoves to communities in the eastern and western part of Ghana. And we hope that maybe with the support of partners and investors, we will upscale this particular project so that at least the little efforts we are doing, young people, it could also address poverty and also lead to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions in Ghana. Thank you.
Zipporah, you've really been at the front line, so you've not only thought about the issue, but you've actually developed something which makes a real difference on the ground. So I think you certainly are, you're extremely engaged. Is this the issues that you've seen at the local level and that you've been trying to address? Is this reflected in the Just Transition agenda nationally in Ghana?
I would say that, of course, just as Mahan, I believe a lot of young people in the room are thinking, yes, there is the struggle, but young people are resilient. That is who we are. We have the Zoe, we do not give up. And that is why, just as from the beginning of my session, I said that because of young people, that is why there are no coal plants in Ghana. But Ghana is also contributing in its own way to make sure that they also provide a clean and safe environment for its young people, especially in the Just Transition conversation. I'm also proud to actually say that Ghana is leading West Africa through its solar hydropower plants, which has not only increased our capacity in terms of energy generation, but provided employment and development to local communities. And then the government has also promised to waive taxes on importation of renewable technologies. And it has also introduced the Energy Transition Framework and Energy Transition Investment Plan, which is expected to guide energy transition planning through to 2070. So I'll say that, yes, Ghana is also making its own contribution in the Just Transition process, but we do not have to end there as young people. We have to keep on making the noise so that they see the urgency in transitioning, because we can't say that we are leaving it for the government alone. We all have a role to play if we are saying that we do not want to leave anyone behind. Thank you.
You just talked about everybody having a role, and I think everybody also has a vision. You have a very clear role, and everyone has a vision. What's your vision, Zipporah, for Ghana in the next years?
Okay, thank you very much again, Catherine. So, into the future, I want to see an Africa, not just a country. I want to see an Africa where young people are actually being provided the needed skills and support towards a green economy in order to meet the demands of a just transition. Because we cannot say that young people, or we cannot say communities should transition if we are not providing them an alternative. And especially since young people are also anxious, or they're also uncertain about the future, they would only feel that if they do not have anything to rely on. So I believe that if you're able to give young people the needed support and green skills, then they actually feel comfortable to actually transition to the cleaner opportunities we are providing them. I also want to see more young people included in policy decisions and processes. For I believe that young people, we are not just changing the world, we are actually powerful tools designing it, and we need not to be tokenized by our government. Thank you so much.
Thank you for, I think, how you ended, which is that it's not just a token involvement of the youth. I think we can all recognize that here, and I'm sure we'll hear it from the other colleagues who will speak, but it's not about ticking a box, the involvement of youth. It's really, you bring something extremely valuable. I have to say you, because I don't feel like I'm a youth anymore, but still, that you're bringing something extremely valuable, and it's making your own future, making the future of the youth. And so, of course, your involvement is absolutely essential. Zipporah, thank you so much. Again, please stay online, don't go, because I think there will be many questions for you afterwards. So with this, we will move on to the second block of the session. So this is to present to you, to discuss a little bit some youth engagement projects, again, outside of the European Union. So we have three representatives. So we have Alexandra, who's working for WWF Adria in Serbia. Maria, I'm very happy to have Maria with us here, Savina, coming from Ukraine, the Interns League, and Zagi Berian, the Society of Renewable Energy in Indonesia. I'm going to start with Alexandra, who is also online. Alexandra, just as we get you up on screen. So Alexandra, you're involved in the Panda Labs Junior for Just Transitions project, which is a project that engages students from just transitions not only in Serbia, but also Bulgaria, Montenegro, and North Macedonia in green entrepreneurship. So let me just kick off by asking you how the project is contributing to change in the region.
Well, this is something that we actually tried to do 3 years ago now, and the project was finished last year, but then all at once we got the extension, and we are continuing working in this region, as I mentioned, Bulgaria, North Macedonia, Montenegro, and Serbia. And from, listen, I will just start. I'm sorry, I just remember that I should speak a little bit slower because of interpreters. So what I would like to start is actually with achievements we've made in 2 years project. And this is something that is very, very important to us to see that actually the things that we were doing in Just Transition, educating and informing the youth about the process is actually having its own effects and influences. So what I can say is that one student from our project was accepted to a private university on a full scholarship because she highlighted the Panda Labs Junior for Just Transition experience and the achievements that she made during the hackathons and everything. Then we have another student that is told us that he will start his own business in green entrepreneurship and try to, build their own sustainable business. Then we have a lot of youth that told us, actually they called back because the project was firstly over almost a year ago, and now we have a continuation. So the students are getting back with the information that they are actively involved in decision-making activities within their local units. We have a great education platform that both students and teachers can rely on and can use the information and the knowledge exceeded so far. And of course, whole new perspective that is colored by green entrepreneurship, green jobs, and the economy, and sustainable ways of youth development. And I think this is something that is actually crucial achievement on our project. And not to mention, as I already did 2 times so far, that we got the extension, that there is a lot of interest in continuation of these things, and I surely hope that we will continue in the future with this.
Alexandra, thank you. I think you've given really clear examples of very specific outcomes for some of the youth which were involved in your project. You also mentioned green entrepreneurship. I wanted to ask you which areas of the transition process were most interesting to the youth involved in your project. Was green entrepreneurship the main one, or were there other areas that they were interested in?
The green entrepreneurship was the main one. Because the way we were teaching them through the project, because they had a full educational process, and after that they had the hackathons where they compete with their ideas, with their sustainable ideas. So the green entrepreneurship was the main topic, but also we had some serious and very interesting idea about circular economy, about using something that is now waste to be rebuilt, to be reused, and the things, how it can be, and not to be waste. But also we had interesting, very, very interesting, and very, very, ideas that could be performed very easily and with very, a little investments, is on how they can restructure existing businesses into green businesses. So it was really, really interesting. They had a lot of interesting ideas through all the region, and that this is something that we actually see that there is hope in youth especially, because they can understand, they don't have prejudice, they are not burdened, I should say burdened, with the salaries that they have to earn on the usual business as usual way. So they are open-minded, and I think they are, the main force, as Maya said, and also as Zipporah said.
And Alexandra, you've talked about the interests of the youth who are involved and their contribution. How did you engage with them? How did you spread the word about the project? How did you choose the people that should be involved? How did that engagement work in the sense of the project itself?
When we were writing project, the idea was to get very close contact with students and with high school students and with university students, because this is the period when students can understand that they should choose their profession, they should be informed about what are the sustainable way of doing business, and that they should decide whether they will do, as I said, business as usual, or they will try to focus, although it may be difficult, as Maya said, and it will be, since this is not business as usual now, it will be in the future. But the idea is to get them other possible ways. And we entered through high schools and through university students, through their schools teachers and through educational program to try to explain, because there are some subjects where you can, implement knowledge and the researchers you have and get them the idea how to get involved. And then with the students' communities, we could reach to other students that are involved in ecological topics, because it's a wide topic when you talk about ecology, so you can actually enter with another ideas. That was the idea, and I think it's very, very successful.
No, thank you. And I see that having that outreach at the different levels of education also allows you to have a very rich contribution and rich participation in the project. The last question I want to ask you is reflecting what I also asked to Maya and to Zipporah about the engagement or the views of the authorities in this. Did you feel that you were working on your own, or was it in partnership with the authorities and civil society? How has that relationship gone in the project?
Thank you for that question. I was hoping you will ask me that, because while I was listening Maya and Zipporah, I kind of had in a small part agree, because yes, the authorities like to use it the way they are used to it, because if they want to change the sustainable energy transition ways and sustainable energy producing, they will have to transform the whole system, which is hard. And I know it's hard. But listen, what I've experienced so far, and the whole people from the region, as I said, Bulgaria, Montenegro, and North Macedonia, is that if you are putting pressure enough, then they have to at least consider it. And the consideration is the first step, within the change. So if you make them think that there are some sustainable ways, and we have a solution, and there are a lot of people ready to change, and those people are their future voters. They will, they will think. Because on one side, we did it with educating young people, and with educating young voters, and with, getting the idea of something can be done in a different way, and that there is a future in something very sustainable. And then explaining, at the same time, explaining them that the coal reserves are very low. They will have to transfer one way or another. It's better for them if they, think it earlier, if they transfer earlier. So it's much better. On the other side, there are a lot of small businesses that they are very, green, and they are very sustainable, and they are very energy efficient. and green energy efficient. So we have a pressure from youngsters that now understand that there are, and I have to mention, in Bulgaria, North Macedonia, and Montenegro, we are dealing with the same region now, but in Serbia, we've changed from one region to another. So we are, spreading it towards whole country, not to just stay in one region. We really want to spread it to other students as well, so that they have, their own interfering between themselves. So on the other hand, as I said, there are green manufacturers, I must say now, and sustainable, and they are in their middle ages. So we have a pressure from the youth, we have a pressure from the middle ages. So we only, I think we are halfway done. And we are dealing with policy changes as well in the local communities from the start, but then we will, transfer to a national level. So I believe that's the recipe.
I think it's very powerful to hear the very practical implications of the businesses of the youth, which are convincing the authorities. Again, it's about the future voters, so it's not following. I'm thinking we're sitting here in Brussels. I'm working for the European Union, so it's not just because something is coming from Brussels that there is an obligation to implement policies in the case of Serbia and the countries in the region in view of their accession. But it's also because of the pressure and the need for change on the ground. So I think this squeezing from, I won't say the top and the bottom,
Three
but
sides.
Exactly, from all sides can be very powerful. Alexandra, thank you very much. Please, again, stay with us. And now I'm very happy to turn to Maria, who's patiently been with me, and I'm very happy to have Maria with me here in the room. So Maria, just very briefly, you're the CEO of the NGO Interns League, which is ensuring the functioning of a professional social elevator for talented young people who are willing and ready to work in state institutions to make positive changes in Ukraine. So again, we first of all thank you for coming. You had a long journey to get here, so we're very grateful. And I think all of us, thinking of the situation in Ukraine, that you take the time to be with us and to explain to us the processes in your country. We're very grateful. It's extremely valuable. And I think it's really, again, it's a demonstration of the two-way process. It's not that we in Brussels are telling something to you, but we really need to understand how things are in Ukraine and the lessons that we can learn from the situation that you have. So just a very general question, if you could tell us a bit about your project and how it's contributing to change in the region and in the country in Ukraine.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here today. Over 27 years, the parliamentary and other state authorities internship programs are being done by our organization. And it is a quite successful project that brought over 2,000 alumni to our association. And it's about the impact, and it's about the people who are making decisions. For now, we have 9 MPs, the Minister of Ecology, the Minister of Infrastructure, then dozens of vice ministers and advisors to the Ukrainian government, and of course activists from different NGOs. But still, it is not enough, I would say, because I want to tell you something new, that over the years, lobbying, political interest, and the economic interest of certain groups were standing over the values of just transition, over the values of ecology, etc. That's why we need to have more voices. But still, I wouldn't like to stop on negative side of the process. I would like to share some experience of how are we working with these people. Every year we make the very thorough selection of interns for the internship programs. It is around 12 persons per place, and then during 6 months they have training in the Ukrainian parliament and other state institutions, and at the same moment our organization provides them with special training courses and some lectures on different topics, not only about ecology and just transition, of course, but it is one of our main values. That's why we give the floor to this topic and spend a lot of time telling youth about just transition. And also we have the policy analysis course in which our interns, they can make their own projects about just transition. And while having internship, they are training, but then becoming the parliamentarians, the people who make decisions, they know how to work with this topic, and they know what is the proper value and what is the valuable decision.
I'm just listening to you saying that you have 9 MPs and several ministers and vice ministers, so it's amazing to think of the influence that the people who have gone through the program are already having. And I like so much the new political leadership for just transition, the slogan. Is there, I mean, what are the other benefits that you could see coming from, apart from, I mean, of course, they're now in interesting and influential positions. Is there a broader context, a broader benefit from the people who have gone through the program?
Of course, it is a community, as I mentioned. I've already mentioned values twice, but it is a community with common values and with the ecological values. And how does it work? For example, during 2 years before the war, we worked together with our alumni and the Ukrainian government with the new energetic strategy of Ukraine. Me personally was working on the topic of using the biogas instead of coal. That's why how it unites people and how it works. We influence on people who are making decisions in the country, and some part of our community are making these decisions. Of course, now we have a very bad situation in Ukraine with all these projects that we started, because it is really not easy to think about, not to think, but to do some kind of things to ecology and to just transition when we have war in Ukraine and when every day we have to think about recovery and rebuilding the country. But still, we are working on these topics, and maybe you have some questions, and I will tell some success stories later.
Well, I wanted to ask you, indeed, you talked about having a community of the values, and the whole purpose, of course, of the program is to make this community about just transition. I wanted to ask you which kind of issues, which themes are most of interest through the program, but also when people have gone through and they're taking their path in whichever track they have then taken after they've gone through the program.
Well, there are a lot of topics, of course, but if we are talking about the just transition and about the ecology, in Ukraine we have 2 big regions with mine coals, and one of these regions is almost under the occupation, so it is around 40% of all coal mines in Ukraine, but also in the west of Ukraine we have active processes, and youth is very interested in rebuilding these regions. And for now it works very interesting, because while the biggest region that was really depressive one before the war is now under the occupation, and we can't work there. We can't work there with people, with youth, with politicians. We can think, work and test the just transition projects in the West, and then just multiple this story to the east of Ukraine. And it's really very interesting how we can do it even during the war.
I'm just so amazed and impressed at the resilience and the ability to keep on with this process and to see how you can then extend it into areas of eastern Ukraine when it's possible to do so. And you started to talk about the involvement of youth. I'm curious how you get people into the project. How do people hear about it, and how do they get engaged?
Actually, we have a very big network inside of our organization and a lot of partners organization. In the slide, you can see one of the very interesting events that we created together with I think 5 Ukrainian NGOs and lots of international NGOs. It was the big forum, ecological forum that united the Ukrainian NGOs, that united the parliamentarians and the representatives of Ukrainian government. And we talked a lot about the future of ecology and just transition in Ukraine. And the very interesting point was about decentralization, because it is great when there are some activists that are planning some kind of activities and talking in different communities and forums, but the main point is to go to the regions, to small communities and towns, and to talk to people there. That's why after this forum we made the project with small grants for young activists from villages and towns of throughout Ukraine who made a lot of educational events in their own communities to share these values and to create some ideas of how their region can go through the process of transition. And it was quite amazing.
You mentioned in your answer there that the engagement that you have with the authorities, and of course you have many of your alumni are in the parliament or are ministers. Could you just tell us a bit, this is my final question, a little bit about the other partners that you're working with? Is it mainly the authorities or also very broadly with civil society? Or which community are you bringing together in your project and the implementation?
Actually, it's 50-50 balance because we are trying to work with, of course, with the Ukrainian government, but we are like the social lift, social elevator for communication between the NGOs and the government. And also, I would like to mention one very interesting project that is now starting in Ukraine by our alumni and our partner organization. They are creating the platform for recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine that will, of course, cover the topic of just transition. It will be the platform that will unite the government, the local governments and civil society to create local projects, then to vote for them, and then to put them in action. If someone is interested in taking part or knowing more about these projects, we will have the online presentation on the 30th of April, so we can just talk after the panel, and I will share the link with you.
Thank you very much. I mean, I think that sounds very interesting, the platform that allows the local projects to be created. I'm sure there will be interest amongst the audience for this. Thank you, Maria. We have one more panelist to tell us about his youth engagement project. So Zagi Berian, a very warm welcome to you also to the panel. Thank you very much for joining us. So Zagi, you are the founder and advisor of Society for Renewable Energies in Indonesia. So this is a youth organization which is focused on the renewable energy sector with the aim to accelerate the Indonesian energy transition through inclusive youth empowerment and multi-institutional collaboration, and by creating a local network in universities across Indonesia. So you have a very ambitious and a very wide-ranging scope of your organization. So perhaps I can ask you to just begin by presenting a little bit what your project is and how it's contributing to the just transition process in your region and in Indonesia.
Yeah, thank you so much. So good early morning from New York. So I've been invited for the first ever Sustainability Week during the United Nations General Assembly to talk about energy access, like this webinar. So it's very aligned with our vision to accelerate the universal energy access. Especially my organization in Indonesia have two strategies within the mitigation and also the adaptation strategy. We believe that youth have three values. Youth thinks differently, concretely, and truthfully. So we transform the three values into the concrete action. So what does it mean about the differently? We transform the conventional approach to more youth approach. We start from the small projects. You can imagine the youth can leverage 1 kilowatt peak within a day to a half megawatt peak within 12 months. So we can replicate with the other youth in the region, especially in Indonesia. And then for the concretely, we go hand in hand with the society. We provide very specific solution in terms of healthcare facility, education facility, social facility. So we bring the clean energy as the main driver to increase the rural livelihood. And all of the installation comes from the youth that certified by the government. So we already, show the proven concept to the government, and the government adopt us to be replicated to the other region, because Indonesia has 70,000 islands. You can imagine youth can, travel in very hard geographic in Indonesia. We have to, transfer the solar PV, the inverter, the battery to very remote areas because of youth. And then truthfully, we share heart-to-heart communication with the society. So the society can accept us to be their friends because they have a lot of, nature the solution in their area. They can leverage their economy. Our calculation, Indonesia can increase the GDP within 1% if the energy infrastructure can be, democratized from the young people. And also there are 140 villages in Indonesia have not electrified yet, and over 500 million people in Indonesia cannot get access to electricity. So these things we give the concrete action, and we advocate to the other youth. We invited to the other youth. We extend our arm to collaborate with each other, and all of the financing come from the blended finance. We ask to the philanthropy, we ask to the CSR budget, we ask to the state-owned budget. So what's the CapEx coming from? And then what's the OpEx coming from? And how can we create some energy communities in that area in order to maintain the solar PV, the micro hydro small power plant, or biogas power plant in the lifetime? So that's very unique approach that we conducted, and it's become phenomenon in Indonesia and adapted by the government of Indonesia. And every student that join the program, they can transfer into their credits in the university up to 20 credits. So they don't have to take the credits in the university. They just only join our program and then can get 20 credits within one semester. That's the first story that I can share with you.
Zaghi, thank you. I like very much you said that youth is thinking differently and they're thinking concretely. And also you're very convincing about the way that society is more accepting of the views which are coming from youth. I mean, your organization is extremely concrete. You talked about the clean energy and all of the work that you're doing and the energy communities. So I wanted to ask you which areas of the transition, the youth is most interested in your experience, so in the work that you're doing. Of course, you're focused on renewable energy, but what elements of this are the most interesting to the youth?
Yes. So when we talk about the renewable energy sources, it depends on the location. Indonesia have a lot of renewable energy sources, but when we talk about the region, all regions have same problem, and all the problem can be solved by the solar PV solution. And solar PV solution is very easy to implement. And all the young people are really eager to know about the solar PV and so on. And the other hand, we also promote some micro hydro, but the micro hydro is very limited to to implement, and the cost is quite high than the solar PV itself. And not only the micro hydro. So if there is husbandry or something else, we create some biogas power plant for the gas for the household. And the most interesting is we combine all the teams from the multi-aspect or multi-background, and then we put the women, especially 20% of the total team. So the women can interact with the society or with the rural community, or talk with the women in the rural area, because we have to increase their activities in the rural area. Women empower women. So basically, that's the idea that SRE approach to implement the just energy transition, especially from the small power plant of the renewable energy.
You brought in an interesting aspect, which is not just the youth aspect, but also the gender aspect, so the importance of involving women very, very much in this.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because the women in the rural area, they don't have any capacity to, to leverage their capability. I know the women can empower the very small child, and then we can, increase their economic activities. So basically, we touch the herd, and then we increase the healthcare facility, because the healthcare facility is very important for women in the rural area, especially women get pregnant, need the medicine. If the healthcare facility, they don't have any electricity, where the medicine? So we bring the electricity. We talk with the Ministry of Healthcare in Indonesia. Hey, look, this location needs electricity for the healthcare facility. They have so much women in the rural area. We have to leverage the youth in that area. And the Ministry of the Healthcare asked to the Ministry of Energy, they can collaborate each other. They can find another funding from the state budget, and then the private sectors from the CSR. So there is a very concrete action, and women can lead into specific solution in terms of women empowering women. Maybe that's the very real experience from Indonesia.
Sagi, you mentioned then that you've been, because your organization already has a very broad reach. When we saw the project, I don't know if the project fiche is still up, but the geographic spread of your organization, and obviously you have a very big reach. You talked about your engagement then with the ministry. My final question to you is how what that engagement is, and how is it just with the administration, civil society? How do you see yourself in the bigger picture of the partnership in Indonesia for the just transition process?
Yeah, we always have the pentahelix approach. We bring the private sector, the academia, the government, the media, and also the community into one platform, and the youth can be a bridge between the stakeholders. So basically, how can we leverage the youth? They can communicate. They can, create some unique approach to connect each other. And we also know a lot of philanthropy want to help the rural area or the rural community, but very hard to find in Indonesia the specific location that's suitable for the philanthropy itself. And for the other donors, maybe like the GIZ and we create some green job program to empower their rural community in order to leverage their capability, new skill, upskill, and reskill. And for the media, so we have to be, goes hand in hand with the media, because media can amplify our voices. We targeted the very political news leader in Indonesia, the mainstream media in Indonesia, to hit the specific target. If we talk about the really high-level decision makers, we collaborate with the political news leaders in Indonesia. So our program directly, hit the high-level decision makers. But for the mainstream, we want to leverage for the youth, maybe across the social media and so on. That's the basic solution. We have to bring all the stakeholders within the pentahelix approach.
It's like you've closed this part very well by reminding us of the importance of the partnership, and you've listed all of the ones which you recognize: the private sector, the government, the academics, the civil society, youth, and you brought in media, which I think is also important in terms of the messaging. So we need also to think of all of the discussions that we have and the importance of having, and we came back to the issue of fear and nervousness, which of course is absolutely present, and we have to recognize, and I think the messages which are passed through media, through social media, then are extremely important in terms of bringing the society on board and allowing the process to be inclusive as we go forward. So I want to first of all ask you to please thank all of our panelists before we go to Q&A for their incredibly valuable and open insights into their projects and their situations. So we have about 10 minutes left. I warned you at the beginning, so please do think of anything that you'd like to ask. If you want to ask questions or you want to bring your own experience of engagement or the problems that you face, the opportunities, this is your moment. And Veronica will help me if there are questions which are coming through Swapcard. So please, is there any question at the moment in the room? Sander, I can even say your name. Sander is part of my team in DG Regio, working on Just Transition. So I've done your introduction, Sander.
Yes, thank you. Great panel. I was very inspired by all the speakers, also by the strength of the Ukrainian organizations. It's really, really incredible. But my question goes out to Zagi, the Indonesian speaker. So the EU has great ambitions for the climate transition, and our work on Just Transition is linked to that. But we often hear that from Indonesia, our ambitions are seen as a threat, for instance, when it comes to impact on the palm oil industry. So how does youth in Indonesia look at these ambitions globally, or also coming from Europe? Do you see it as a threat, or do you see it as an opportunity?
So basically, from the youth, it's really, look for the economic beneficial. If from the economic beneficial can benefit the society, the youth are eager to support. That's the answer. So maybe all of the youth in Indonesia already criticize the issue related to the bioenergy and so on, but deep down into their heart, they really want to benefit the society. Maybe that's the basic answers that I can give you to you, Sander.
Zagi, thank you very much for that. I think it's an important question about the feeling and the whether it's seen as an opportunity or indeed a threat. Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joanna Jakubowska, and I'm Just Transition Policy Officer at CE Bankwatch Network. So first of all, thank you so much for including youth voices at this platform and also adding this global perspective, which is really, really interesting. So I've been personally involved in an initiative that is called EU Teams for Green for the past 2 years. And it's a project that is focused on young people in the just transition regions all across the EU. And it funded 70 different projects that were focused on sustainable actions. So we saw some such initiatives such as, for example, gardens being set up next to schools, or bike festivals, art festivals, and many, many more. So what we basically saw is that it's not that young people lack passion, initiative, motivation, or any sort of the positivity. But what is still lacking are appropriate support structures. So tools that are available for young people to implement their own youth-led actions. So here what we see, and what is one of the most important aspects of it, is lack of appropriate funding. So the question to all of the panelists is, this is also a challenge for you? And if so, how do you manage to overcome it? Thank you very much.
Joanna, thank you very much for sharing your experience. Of course, it's a very valid question. Will someone volunteer to answer? I don't know, Alexandra, if you have, if the funding was an issue, yes.
Yeah, I volunteered to answer. I know exactly what you mean with this question, and as you all face lack of fundings, we also did, And this is one of the main thing that we are struggling with, is to provide funds for something that is actually very interesting to youth, something that is getting them a great perspective, and something that will show them how to develop themselves in the future. But what I can tell you is, from our experience, we got only one project. It was a pilot project, and we didn't, by the end of the project, we didn't see that something will actually happen. But then we got the extension. And from what I've seen now, is that there are a lot of donors, because we are a project-oriented organization, a lot of donors are interested in financing just transition, sustainable energy producing, and similar projects. And from what I've seen, more and more organizations in Serbia are willing to transfer their, to develop actually themselves into just transition topics and energy sustainable. So from today's perspective, I believe that we can gain more funds. If you asked me the same question a year ago, I wouldn't be so sure.
Alexandra, that's really interesting. As you say, the evolution, I think we felt that yesterday as well, the evolution and just transition becoming more accepted in the society and seen not as something which is needed, but also something which is wanted as we move forward. I think, Maya, were you raising your hand also to come in?
Yes. I will just give a short insight on the behalf of the Bosnia and Herzegovina. Of course, I agree with Alexandra and what she said, that we can definitely gain more funds. But when it comes to Bosnia and Herzegovina, I would say that the funding has been decent and more than decent. And the problem we have, the major problem we have in Bosnia and Herzegovina, is the allocation of the resources, allocation of the money. The problem is, for example, we are getting the money and the funds, but it is not allocated the way it should be allocated to the crucial levels. And I think in the question, it has been a great point to say that there are no enough tools for youth to implement. Of course, we have the will, but in fragmented societies, such as the Bosnian and Herzegovinian society that has a terrible administrative structure, we need to create umbrella organization for youth to, let's say, collaborate together, to work together, and to gain more funds by working together. So the unique, just, and joint, let's say, structure is more than needed when it comes to at least Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Maya, thank you very much. Maria indicated she wants to also come in.
Almost the same situation that Maya mentioned we have in Ukraine, because when a people not from the just transition region, somewhere from the center of the country, they can write the good project proposal or project, but they are not operating in the region. And the small ground initiatives from the region, they are maybe not so professional in writing, but they can do much more, because they are passionate and they want to change their regions. That's why, yeah, it is a problem. It's not only about the amount of funding, but about how it is circulating. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. I think that's an important point. Zipporah, you're an entrepreneur, so in a sense you've been very dynamic in this. Did you receive other funding, or was it a problem for you as you were moving forward?
Yes, I think just as every speaker has said, it's also a challenge, but what I do is, for example, if Maya is also having the same initiative or same project idea I'm having, I also try as much as possible to partner with her, because I may not have funding, but Maha may have funding, and we may all target to do a particular project. So instead of doing it individually, I try as much as possible to also look for organizations that have the same vision and focus area as I have. So because I also got to learn last year that I could also leverage on bigger organizations to actually apply for funding, because some grants actually want organizations that have a particular experiences in terms of giving them grants, because they feel like they can trust them. So that is what I also learned last year, that maybe instead of trying to be on my own, or I should rather leverage on other organizations and work with people. And I think that is very important, because it's even in our SDG goals, that's SDG 17, partnership, and that is why it's very important. Even as much as possible as we learn to write grants and the government also try to find how to go about allocation of resources, but we should also try and leverage on each other so that we could also work towards a particular goal, so that it doesn't look as if one person is doing another project, but it's actually towards the same goal. That is what I would like to see.
I think it's a very nice way to finish, Zipporah. You're underlining the fact that it's not only working in partnership, it's working in another kind of partnership, working in partnership between youth organizations and organizations working in the same field to make sure that the funding is available and is going to the right places. And Maria, you said it also, that that we're not stopped by the administration, that the resources are reaching the places that they need to go. We've reached the end of our session, so I wanted to give a huge thanks to all of the panelists, so to Maria here, to Zaghi, Zipporah, Alexandra, and Maya. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and really bringing your passion. I think we heard the word several times, so the passion. We've heard about fear, but what I take away is the passion that you have for the work that you're doing, which I think is reassuring, looking towards the future. I must remind you all that we have a coffee break, but there is a coffee corner downstairs for the public sector loan facility, so Pillar 3 of the JTM. So please do join downstairs if you're interested to learn more and discuss that. Otherwise, coffee there or coffee at the back, and we will return for the next session in half an hour. Thank you.